Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be discussing arrays again. This is the second video about arrays. Today we'll take a more practical approach, specifically in Python, to learn how to work with arrays, right? So, the first thing that we should know how to do is how to basically create an array, right? So, we've already discussed certain basic concepts about variables, uh, declarations, and initializations, right? So it's kind of going to be again on the same lines, but now specifically for an array. Okay, so you can take any uh, give you can take any variable, so any name works. Let's say nums is an array that I'm going to nums is a variable in which I'm going to try to store an array, right? So because we're working in Python specifically, uh, we are going to be using lists instead of the traditional arrays, and we already discussed the difference between what a list in Python is and what a traditional array is in the previous video. So please go check that out if you haven't. Um, but yeah, Python basically has lists, right? So so yeah, if nums is my um, variable in which I need to store a list of, let's say, numbers, uh, how am I going to do that? So again, on the left hand side, I write the name of my variable, and this is equal to, we make two square brackets, right? And in between these square brackets, we are going to list out all the numbers that we need in this array or in this sequence, um, comma separated, right? So let's say it's something like 35, 70, 80, and 92, and maybe one more, so 105. Okay, so this array has a length of 5, right? And this is all you need to do in Python to basically declare a variable, let's say nums, and initialize that to a list, right? Again, in Python, declaring and initialization basically happens together. So yeah, that's it. So this on the right hand side here is the actual list in Python, which has a length of 5, basically has 5 numbers in it, and this list is assigned to this variable nums, right? Now let's say we are given the list nums already, right? How do we get an element at any index of this list nums, right? So let's say I want to print maybe the number at index 2 in nums, right? So what would that be? This is the number at index 0, 35. This is the number at index 1, 70, and this is the number at index 2, 80, right? Again, remember, 0 indexing, right? So how do I basically print this second index number, right? So the way that you retrieve an element at any index is using this syntax. So if you write nums and you write brackets, square brackets, and you give the index here, it's basically going to retrieve the the number or character or object at that index in the list. Okay. um, Once you've retrieved that, you can do whatever you want to with it. So let's say here I'm basically going to show you a couple of things. So firstly, we can print it out, right? So now if I run this, it prints 80, right? So when I ran it, what happened was it first created this array nums, and then it printed nums of 2, which was 80, like we discussed, right? The other thing you can do is assign this specific number to a variable, right? You might need to do that sometimes in your programs. So how do you do that? Again, it's very simple. you need a new variable name, right? So let's say our variable name is um, let's say our variable name is n. Okay. And we uh, uh, to this variable n we assign nums of 2, which means the number at the second index in this nums list gets assigned to this variable n, right? Now if I go ahead and print n, it's going to print the value that was in nums2, right? So again we see the same thing. Another thing you can do is directly use this in calculations. So let's say I want to print nums of 3 plus 30. Okay, so I can just call nums of 3. This retrieves this number at index 3, which is 92 here, and then I can just add, let's say, 45 to it. Okay, so when I now run this, it's going to return the sum directly. So yeah, you can basically, once you know how to retrieve this element, you can just use it as you would use any number or any object that you generally use in Python, right? Um, so that's another important thing to know, how to get an element that's present at a specific index in a list. Um, the final thing you should know is how to loop through an array, right? So what I mean by that, what I mean by looping through an array is that um, going through each and every number in this array, right? Um, how do you do that? Like, how do you retrieve each and every number in this array, right? So there's a couple of ways of doing this, and the first one uses the range function, right, which we've discussed previously, right? So if you remember, the range function works in a way that it creates a range of uh, a sequence of numbers for you, which starts at this start parameter, ends at this ends before this end parameter, and this sequence of numbers has a kind of a step or an update of the step that you give here, basically, right? If you don't remember this, this is in one of the loops videos in this playlist, so you can go back and refer to that. But basically, if we need to kind of iterate through each of um, these numbers, right? We can use this range function in conjunction with what we've learned about how to get an element from a specific index, right? So the way to do that is we'll make a for loop, right? Of any variable, let's say I, and we'll say that this I variable is basically the index of the index of nums, right? And an index which points to any number in nums, right? Now we need this I variable to take values of all the possible indices in nums, right? All the possible index values in nums should be taken by this I, right? So how do we do that? We start from 0 because we know that indices or an index starts from 0, right? And we go up till the length of nums, right? um, we go just before the length of nums, right? Because if since it starts from 0, so the last elements in index is going to be length of nums minus 1, right? So for example here, the last element has an index of 4, right? And the length of nums is 5. So we go till before length of nums, right? And our step up is going to be 1, right? Because we need to keep increasing this I one by 1 in every loop iteration, right? So first it becomes 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and then finally 4, and then it kind of uh, comes out. So now we have a way in which we can kind of move uh, in which we can kind of move an index through this list nums, and now you can basically do anything with that. So nums of I, if I print, it's basically going to kind of loop through this whole nums and print the elements at each I, um, again and again, right? That's basically what we wanted to do. We wanted to loop through the array, right? So if I run this, it's going to print 137 because of this line number 9, but after that it's going to print all the numbers in this array, right? Um this is specifically useful in cases where, let's say, you have a list of names and you just want to print out all those names, right? So let's say we have some names, let's say John, Jack, and Amy, right? And let's say I just want to print something like hello, and the name of the person, right? So I can just say names of I, right? And here obviously I need to change this to length of names, right? uh, yeah. So once, if I run this, it's basically going to print hello John, hello Jack, and hello Amy, right? I should have probably given a space here. Yeah. So something like that basically, right? um, the second way of looping through an array uh, is by uh, using something which Python provides innately, uh, which is the for loop itself, right? So again, in one of the loops videos, we discussed that using the for loop, we can basically iterate through any element of a sequence, right? And since a list is basically a sequence of elements, we can basically use the for loop to iterate through any element in this sequence. So all I need to do is say something like for element in nums, right? And it's just going to, and this L or element is just going to keep taking one after the other each of the values that are present in nums. So now if I print L, it's kind of going to uh, do the same thing that our original loop with that I index was doing, right? So you can see it prints everything in nums. And if I kind of ask it to print hello names, it's basically going to do the same thing, but obviously I need to change this nums to names, right? And yeah, you can see it basically does. Oh, okay, I also messed up here. Like, we need to basically print hello L, right? Because L is the actual variable, not names of I. So when I run this, you're going to see hello Jack, John, hello John, Jack, Amy, and then again hello John, Jack, Amy from this loop, right? So that's basically kind of the basics of using an array, how to create an array, how to get an element at any index, how to loop through an array. Um, and yeah, that should be sufficient for this video. In the next video, we'll kind of discuss. We'll basically use this practical knowledge and what we've learned about arrays previously to kind of do a question, right? So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.